quite a stir in the community, and we're excited to have everybody here. With how we're going to present that is Mr. Wilson is going to make a statement or two, and then we're going to open it up to the public. Anybody that would like to comment, please come down to the microphone, state your name, and your comment, whatnot. Please be respectful of other folks. Please limit it to 2 or 3 minutes. You know, we don't want to be here all night, but we want to hear from you. And then after that, after all public comment, we're going to turn the time back over to Mr. Wilson, and then he'll make a few comments, and then the board will make a few comments. But that's how we're going to handle this next agenda item. Please be respectful of other folks, and remember that we don't get paid a whole lot up here. So with that, we'll turn the time over to Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. And I do appreciate the school board and their service, especially Bill and Carol being willing to come in and serve, and for David and Nolan for the many years of service that they provided. Also to the community. You know, this shows that you care about our school and our community and the special place that this is that many of us call home, and for many of us have for many generations. As I was reviewing information for this decision, it's been an interesting month getting feedback from community members, alumni, going out and meeting with the Shoshone-Bannock tribal leadership, getting a letter of support, 1 from them and 2 from the Nez Perce tribe up in Lapwai, Idaho, and getting really mixed reviews from parents, from students, people in the community that support this change, those that are strongly opposed to this change. And I do hope that because you care and you're passionate, you feel like we listen to you. That being said, hindsight is a beautiful thing. And as I've gone through this month, I have listened and reflected on the decision that I've made, and I recognize not just my deep heritage in this community, but how committed I am to the school district. Not just where I work, but the fact that I send my children to school here every day. And I trust teachers and bus drivers and principals and counselors with the safety of my own children. So that being said, if I would have put my teacher hat on a month ago, it may have been better to ask the question of the staff and of the community, should we change the high school mascot? Why not? Unfortunately, being in administration too many years, I put my admin hat on and I looked at an issue, looked at information, made a decision, and am ready to move forward. So that hindsight and that reflection over the last month is something that I'm always trying to evaluate myself and how I can do a better job in serving this school district and this community. So I want you to know I recognize that I probably got ahead of myself on this one. It's important for me to listen to feedback from the people that pay the taxes to pay for the schools, of which I live here and I do so as well, of the people that trust me and the rest of the staff with their children. This was not something that I took lightly. This was not something that I was flippant or assuming that I represent all alumni, assuming I represent Native Americans. I don't represent anybody else but myself. But in that, I take the responsibility of making decisions for the school district and moving the school district forward. And I've reflected on my own time going through Teton High School, graduating in 1988. And the reason I am an educator is because of the experiences that I had in high school and the profound impact that coaches and teachers had on me when I was a teenager. But we are always changing, and we are always evaluating and trying to do things differently. Just a couple of examples. When I was in elementary school, there was a young man who was my age who had Down syndrome. He was in school for a couple of years in elementary school, but by the time we got to middle school and high school, he wasn't in school anymore. I don't know where he went to. I do now that I have been able to communicate with his family, but as we went through school, special education students with very high needs were not part of our regular classroom experience. They were segregated, they were separated, and however their needs were met, they were met. I do not have an experience in middle school and high school of special ed students being in my classes. Another thing that's changed is it used to be called high school initiation. And for many of us that went through, you can think back to what that experience was. It was very memorable. If you wanted to remember it or not, it was imprinted pretty strongly in your brain what that experience was. And it was great, and I enjoyed it. It was part of being a freshman and putting up with the seniors in that experience. It was public humiliation. Today it would be called bullying and hazing. The school district would get sued and staff would get fired if we did those kinds of things in our school district today. So I recognize tradition and the importance of heritage in our community, but I also think there are a lot of things that need a serious evaluation about why we do it and what it means and how we can move forward if something can be offensive. And the more research and information I looked at with having a mascot with the name of Redskins is offensive to others. It's not offensive to everybody. It's not offensive to all Native Americans. I've spoken to many of them. Some of them think it's an honor and it is prideful and it recognizes that heritage of our community. I've spoken to those people. And I've spoken to many who have said it's offensive that the name was generated when the colonists were killing and scalping Indians and bringing their scalps in to be traded. And some think it refers to the color of Native American skins. And as I looked at that, I don't see any other high school mascot that has white skins or brown skins or pick any other demographic that you have. So from that, I made the decision that we should have a mascot that can be seen in a positive and respectful manner to everybody. It shouldn't be something that is offensive to others. That's why I made the decision that I did. Again, in hindsight, probably a conversation and more time and more feedback from more people probably would have been a better approach to take. My intention was not to make people mad. If my goal was to increase attendance at school board, I think I met that goal, but this isn't definitely the way to do it. So from that, I am listening, and I've worked to respond to anyone who has called me, anyone who stopped in my office, anyone who sent me an email directly. And I've heard from people all over the country. I've been on the phone with people from Seattle to Florida, San Francisco to New Jersey. Some are alumni. Some have skied at Targhee or fished on the river. Some own property here and are only here a few weeks of the year. Probably last week when it felt like half the world was here. And different opinions about this issue. It's very divisive. From the feedback I've gotten, people do not agree. Is it right or is it wrong? It's a very mixed review. So from that, I do appreciate that you're here, that you care about Teton High School and our school district and our community. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll open up to public comment. Please come on down and state your name in front of Mike, and I'm going to offer to Paris Pinfold. Come on, right on down. You may want to make sure he was on, so if you want to get down the line, we'll make sure you're here. And we'll call this one microphone number 1, and we'll call this one microphone number 2. So, microphone number 1.
Thank you very much. I usually don't come out to these forums and speak in public because I was born a redhead and I have a redhead's temper, so I apologize in advance. But I'd like to say that I'm 1/8 Eastern Band Cherokee Indian, and I'm proud of that. That's enough to live on a reservation should I choose. I want you to know that I'm extremely offended by you changing the Redskin name. It's extremely prideful to those of us who are of Native American heritage. Also, you may not get paid very much, but Mike gets paid a good deal. And he should have listened. I've talked to people in your ward that said you were impossible to have a conversation with. All I have to say is I'm really ashamed of you. There's a lot of money that has gone into this, and we all feel this very strongly. And I apologize for my outburst, but thank you very much.
Mr. Henry, microphone number 1.
First thing I'd like to mention, before you do anything, you ought to go over to Star Valley and see what they did on their graves. They come up with the same thing, and it lasted about 2 years, and they went back to the graves. I think it ought to be an honor to be a Redskin. Everybody was hooting and hollering for them instead of degrading them. I think the name Redskin should stick. If it don't stick, I don't think you should use taxpayers' dollars to do away with the Redskins and all the names and everything. I think that should come out of your pocket or anybody that follows you. Another thing, you say degrading. I heard this English second language. And to me, probably half of you don't remember what our GIs went through in World War II to keep us from speaking Japanese and German. And now, you say English second language? Now, if that isn't degrading, I don't know what is. But I do think that if you change, you ought to be held responsible for the dollars, not the taxpayers. Just because you work for the school board and the school system, it's still taxpayers' dollars. And I, for one, will be one guy that will want to see how this money's spent if it's changed. If it costs me some money, I'll be right after you if I have to get an attorney. So, by saying that.